Let's start with my man Rohan Chakwarthi. And Rohan, if I butchered the last name, damn me. But Rohan's a good dude. And he has an article up right now. I think it's 49er Web Zone. Let me double check that. But or it might be Niners Nation. Let me see. Is he a Niners Nation? Yeah, it's Niners Nation. Excuse me. Sorry, Rohan. Niners Nation. Rohan Chakravarthi. And I hope I didn't butcher that, but now I've butchered it two different ways. I butchered it. I definitely have butchered it because I said it two different ways. But he's got an article out why trading Debo Samuel this offseason is becoming more of a realistic move for the Niners. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God. And I know Rohan's going to do his homework on this, and I know it's going to be kind of a lengthy piece. But Raj, let's start right there. I mean, before we get into the details, what do you think of the notion of moving Debo Samuel this offseason?
All right. First off, you did butcher the name. That's my boy, Rohan Chakravarti. So that's my boy. We've hung out a lot of times. I love Rohan, but I'm going to push back on this one. You might take the other side, but I get it. I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, they got to pay Brandon Ayuk. They got to pay this guy. How are they going to keep them both? It's simple. Debo Samuel, he signed a 3-year contract. They're going to make it happen. They could restructure it. But this offense, did you see this offense struggle without Debo Samuel? And I know a lot of people are going to point to the Super Bowl and say, oh, well, he had 11 targets. He played through a hamstring injury. This guy is the engine,
and a shoulder, right? I mean,
correct.
He left the Green Bay game. I asked Kyle, what's up with the shoulder? And he's like, it hurts. So, I mean, he either had a labrum or a rotator cuff, a fracture, a dislocation, a partial. I mean, he had something. I mean, he there was something he was playing with shoulder wise.
I mean, he played through injury, and I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's always banged up." This, and that. He's a big part of this offense. He's a catalyst. Regardless, he still had 12 touchdowns this season. This was a really good season for Deebo. Over 1,000 yards of scrimmage. Like, I know people say he's not the traditional receiver, but he has 19 touchdowns receiving, 19 touchdowns rushing for the 49ers. I mean, this guy set records, in terms of wide receivers running touchdowns. This guy's important for the 49ers. When they had him out in the regular season, they were losing games. So Kyle loves this guy. Kyle handpicked him. He was his receiver during that 2019 draft. Like, he took Bosa and Deebo. Those were the cornerstones, the pillars. I think Kyle's going to have a hard time to sit there and wrap his mind around trading them. I'm sure they're going to field calls. I mean, it's due diligence season, Larry. People are going to call. People are going to throw offers. But I don't see Kyle Shanahan trading away Deebo. I really don't. I mean,
it's one of the most touchy conversations among all of us 49er fans. Are they going to trade Deebo? No. Are they going to trade Ayuk? What? No. Are they going to trade JJ? Oh, you can't move JJ. Do you see where I'm going with this? You can't move any of these guys.
You could.
But you probably gotta, and they probably are gonna. So if you got to move one of those guys, who are you moving?
I mean, I guess that's why people are saying Deebo, because of the injuries and this and that, and he's so much money. But I'm not moving any of them. I think they're gonna. Brandon Ayuk's gonna play on his 5th-year option this year. He'll get his extension, and he'll get paid very handsomely. Deebo, right? He got signed a 3-year deal, and now I think he's entering. This is the last year of the deal. $28 million. That's
he signed a 3-year, $71 million deal following his All-Pro 2021 season, and then he's got 2 years remaining on his deal.
2 years left. So maybe he plays one more year and they move him or they restructure. I think they're going to try to restructure it a little bit. And then Jennings, I mean, he's not going to be getting paid 15. He's not going to get paid big money. He's going to get a big raise, of course. I think you could afford all 3 of them. I think that, with Jennings, I think they'll try to do a 2-year deal where they can kind of throw some incentives in there. But I think there's realistic chance of getting them all. Now, I think what people are saying is, you can't have all, like you said, you can't have all of them forever. So, yeah, in the sense of if you have to trade one, I guess Deebo makes the most sense because he, you want to keep BA. He's the highest talent right there. He's 26. He's younger and he's entering his prime. So you want to keep a guy like that. But if we're going to sit here, play devil's advocate, if you have Brandon Ayuk and he's the best of those receivers, you can get more value out of him and you trade him. It was kind of like the DeForest Buckner, Armstead argument a couple years ago. Now, I hope they don't make the same, thing happen like they did that year because they trade Defoe. They put a lot of pressure on Kinlaw when they drafted his, DeForest Buckner's replacement. I don't think they go that route, but I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
It makes you wonder. I mean, what are they thinking? They're saying that Ayuk's coming back,
Hmm.
but then their actions tell you that he might not be coming back. By looking at the receivers they are, by working out offensive linemen that are projected to go in the top 15. Let's make no mistake about it. Brandon Ayuk is your only ticket to getting in the top 15. And so if you're interviewing J.C. Latham and Taliesin Fuaga, you're at least contemplating signing Deebo. And you could say you want to re-sign him, and Ian Rappaport has reported the 49ers are trying to get a deal done with him after the free agent period comes and goes. But the whole wide receiver market could be reset by then, with Justin Jefferson resetting it at 30 million plus, and Deebo was an all-pro this year. So, or I should say Ayuk was an all-pro this year. So, is Ayuk going to want $30 million? You're already committed $28 million a year to Deebo. You're going to go. Then you got JJ sitting there. You're going to commit $60 million to 3 wide receivers. I mean, I don't know if that's the wise move. Reading Rohan's piece here, he says the initial buzz around the combine is that the 49ers would be willing to move off of Debo Samuel. And although his contract may provide complications of trying, in the process of moving off, he said the buzz was synonymous with the Niners' commitment to getting a deal done for Ayuk. And so maybe the Niners are going to pick the younger receiver, which would be Ayuk, as the focal point going forward. And then Rohan writes the biggest concern with Deebo is the hefty contract that still has 2 years remaining on the 3-year extension. In 2024, he's got a cap hit of $28.6 million. That's second on the team to Trent Williams. They've never tried to restructure Deebo, or at least they haven't yet. And he's got guaranteed money allotted to his deal. The Niners would only save $2.1 million if they cut him prior to June 1st. So it's interesting. I mean, it's like he's kind of throwing out the way it could happen pre June 1st and post June 1st. And I guess if you do it post June 1st, the team can spread the dead cap hits over 2 seasons, which makes it a little bit more palatable to move on after June 1st. But if they move on with a post June 1st cut, the Niners take a $11.4 million dead cap hit in 2024, $15.1 million dead cap hit in 2025. So if it's post June 1st, that's pre June 1st. Or no, that's if he's traded post June 1st.
Oh.
If he's moved post June 1st via trade, the 49ers would take on a $6.6 million dead cap hit this year, 15.1 next year.
Either way, cost them. I mean, if they trade him before, to me, it'd be if they are going to entertain this and trade him, you got to do it before because the draft's coming up next month. So you'd want to make sure you have some type of, replacement in line, and free agency is coming up next week. So, I mean, I think it'd have to kind of be moving quickly and in line with what you said about Rappaport, right? He said yesterday that they do want to sign Brandon Ayuk too after the free agency. So if, I mean, you get the timeline created here, you trade Deebo before free agency or during free agency before the draft, you get your draft picks, you draft a wide receiver, or maybe you get a wide receiver in free agency, re-sign Juwan Jennings, and then you sign Brandon Ayuk, and there you go. So that could be what happens, but I don't know, man. Either way, you got a lot of money that you got to commit to these receivers.
Well, and then they met with LSU's Brian Thomas. They met with Texas's Xavier Worthy, who just ran 4.21 at the combine. Those guys are probably going in round 1.
Yeah.
They met with Xavier Leggett. He's probably going late round 1 after he ran 4.3. Troy Franklin from Oregon, as well as Rice's kid, Brendan Rice, Ladd McConkey, McCaffrey's brother, Luke, Jalen McMillan from Washington. Yeah. Do the Niners, here's the question, I guess, do the Niners need a better route runner? They struggled against the Chiefs in man-to-man on Super Bowl Sunday. And McDuffie owned Debo, and Snead shut down Ayuk for the most part. When Ayuk did beat him, the Niners couldn't get the ball to him. What do you think? I mean, is Debo's route running? What do you think of his effort? What do you think of his route running? I mean, there definitely to me was an injured Debo late in the year, so I would cut him a little bit of slack.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of this is where the Niners are going to have to make some tough decisions, and there's going to be a lot of unhappy people. How do you? I mean, if you had to move on from Debo, Ayuk, or JJ, who are you moving on from?
It's tough. I mean, people are going to hate me for this because I would actually move on from Juwan Jennings. If we're going to be honest, Debo is better than Juwan Jennings, 100%. I love Juwan. I think he's fantastic. He's a clutch player, would have been the Super Bowl MVP. But if you're going to sit there and say Debo Samuel, who's arguably an MVP type player a couple years ago, removed the wide back, he offers so much versatility. There's nobody who can replace Debo Samuel. He plays like nobody's business. Juwan Jennings, seventh round pick, he's played fantastic, but he's not a route runner. You want to talk about route runners? Juwan Jennings is fantastic. Great hands. He's a blocker, willing blocker. He's amazing. But out of the three, he's probably the lesser of the three. I know I'm not even saying anything bad about him because I love Jennings, and I hope they bring him back. Brandon Ayuk's the best of those three, talent-wise, pure receiver. And we're going to talk about route running. Brandon Ayuk's a fantastic route runner. Now, I know Debo, I'm going to cut him some slack because he did play through some injuries towards the end of the season. But, I mean, you give him the slant, you put him in the wide receiver screen, little bubble screen. He does some things that nobody can replicate. I get it. Juwan coming off that Super Bowl, there's going to be a lot of recency bias, and people are going to say he's the man. He carried this team in the playoffs, but Debo Samuel's carried this team many, many times. The Eagles game, 3 touchdowns. Like, he had some big games throughout this season. It's a tough situation to be in. They have 3 guys that need to get paid, and they all deserve it, man. So, I don't know. It's tough. I just don't think any rookie wide receiver can immediately replace Brandon Ayuk. So that's why I don't want to trade him, you know. I think you can replicate, maybe some stats here and there from, Jennings from a rookie. But it's a tough situation to be in, Larry. Like, those are all 3 great receivers. Debo, again, he may not be the most polished route running wide receiver, but I think Brandon Ayuk's probably the best route running wide receiver on this team and probably top 5 in the league. Now, to me, what they needed was a better offensive line because Purdy was getting, blitzed all day. To me, the priority is offensive line. You give them a couple more seconds, and I think those guys will get open.
They definitely need to improve the offensive line. There's no question about that. I mean, I don't think there's no way around that one. The 49ers badly need to improve the offensive line.